Hmm. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I can't turn on stuff here if I'm sharing. Okay, now let's share. Try this again. Okay, good morning, everybody. So glad to see you. So first thing is just again to thank our sponsors, Care First Health Plan, Karen Ziegler Consulting Services, Valley Telecom, Khajiit, and Triad Wireless. Secondly, we do have at least one new person. So Brenna, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hey, sure. Yes, so my name is Brenna Leeser. It's my first week at Common Sense Media. I'm the Tech Policy Council. I'll be focusing a lot on broadband, but also some other tech issues like cybersecurity and AI. I come from the private sector, was at Deloitte for about 6 years doing a couple different types of roles, government contracting, and also their government relations office. But excited to work with everyone. I'm very, very passionate about broadband, so I feel like I'm in a
Great.
good company.
Well, welcome. We have anybody else who's new this morning?
Hello, my name is Tamala McBath, and I'm actually new.
Okay.
I'm on my phone now. I'm going to try to log in through the app. I was just mobile. I am the CEO of Just for Success Phoenix, and we work throughout the state. And we have a couple of statewide programs that involve broadband, and was invited to this meeting, and I'm happy to learn more.
Great. Welcome. Anybody else who is
Thank you.
new this morning? And Drew Gardner, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hi, Steve. Hey, all.
Yeah. And Carla, good to see you too.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
So, so I want to talk a little bit about the agenda today. I do not have a presentation scheduled, so I want to do a couple of things this morning, and we'll get to it after some of our briefings today. But I first of all would like to get some feedback from you about our meetings. You know, do you like the format? Should we do something different? What would you like to see us do? So that's the first thing. And the second thing, if we have time, is to do what we haven't done for a while, is to just do a round robin and have 4 or 5 of you just briefly introduce yourselves, who you are, because I know many of you are online, many of you are new, and people don't really know. They hear your name, maybe your organization, but don't really know who you are and what you do. And of course, that's one of the strengths of this group, is people knowing who's who and who's doing what to who. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for the agenda today. But having said that, let's just jump into the agenda this morning. And Erin, you're online, so you want to start us off?
Yes, I will do that, Steve. My name is Erin Larandos, and I am the Digital Equity Program Manager with the Arizona Commerce Authority. For folks who might not know me or much about ACA, we are the administering entity here in Arizona for both the BEAD and digital equity funding that's coming down through NTIA. And our brief update as far as our office is concerned, we are in the middle of the challenge process. We've got about a month left with that, and I'd be happy to drop links to things in the chat if people need those yet. We are hosting our webinars this week for our various stakeholder groups to get an update on that challenge process and answer any questions that folks have. We also have a ton of resources on our website about that process, and I'm happy, again, to drop that in the chat. As far as digital equity is concerned, we are working on our application for the capacity grant funding. Arizona was is anticipated to be awarded just over $16 million for the digital equity plan implementation. And so actually this week, our approved plan was added to the website, and I will share that link as well. So you can take a look at that and see how all of the wonderful public comments that we received and all of the feedback throughout the process really helped to shape the plan. So this next piece, the capacity grant application, is just at our level, just at the ACA. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You're dropping things. I love it. I can just say things and they'll appear in the chat. It's fantastic. So at this point, there is nothing that any of our stakeholders on this call or anyone across the state needs to really worry about as far as the digital equity capacity grant is concerned. We do encourage you to read the final plan and see what got approved by NTIA. But at this point, we are the ones that are hard at work writing that application. And once we do that, we'll be able to share more about what we actually wrote in that application. Basically, this application allows us to prioritize, the work for the first part of implementation with this award of the $16 million. So there will be further guidance, shared with our stakeholders once we are ready to share what a potential subgrant process or potential projects might look like in the state. So we will definitely update this group as soon as we possibly can with that. Let's see, other than that, I think I mentioned we're in the middle of the challenge process. We're still on track with the timeline that's been shared previously for BEAD. But of course, if there are any questions, we are always happy to answer them. The team is also holding weekly office hours outside of the webinars that are being hosted. So if there are, individual questions that you'd like clarification on, or if there's any issues that you're having with the portal or anything like that, we encourage you to sign up for those office hours and get that one-on-one time with our team as well. Let's see, I think that's about it. No updates on any of our staffing changes at this time. We're still working through the process on the open positions. And I think that's about it, unless there are questions for me.
So Aaron, what else is open besides the deputy director position?
That's the one that's open right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Aaron, I had a question.
Yes.
I put
sorry,
it in the chat. So, I know about the 16.1 million, but can Arizona apply for more and possibly receive more, or is that like the cap?
Maybe I can ask Nicole to give more context after I say this part, but that is the amount that was figured out by the formula that they applied. So that's the amount we're currently applying for. There will be 2 additional NOFOs, but in subsequent years for potentially more capacity grant dollars. However, we don't know what those dollar amounts will be at this time. They'll be recalculated at the time of those subsequent NOFOs. Yeah. Andrew, yes, that's the first of the 3 batches. Those are those second and third NOFOs, but we don't have dollar amounts associated with those at this point.
What a pain. Free application.
Indeed.
I mean, at least it's job security. I know what I'm going to be doing next year about this time, right? No, it was a bit of a surprise. It was a bit of a surprise, for states to see that when the NOFO came out, but yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Aaron? So Kelly, I see you're online. Do you want to say anything? Kind of tell us what you're doing. And as I was telling Aaron, I want to understand more about the broadband office people and what you guys do. So do you want to say hello?
Yes, my name is Kelly. I am the new Broadband Community Engagement Manager, and my job is helping to organize our communication and our visits, where we're going, making sure that we are reaching all corners of the state in our visits and sharing information with the community about the BEAD and digital equity programs. And right now I am working on setting up visits in Southern Arizona. So if there's anyone on this call, because I would like to reach specific places, anybody on this call who is in Southern Arizona, I'm looking for Cochise and Santa Cruz counties. I have some contacts working on some things, but would love to connect with other people, really trying to maximize our reach and visit like I said, all counties in the state. So my focus right now is Southern Arizona, and we're going to be doing some traveling probably every month. That's the goal right now. Again, trying to reach every part of the state. So that's what's happening right now. I'm going to put my email in the chat. If there is anyone, again, in those counties, definitely reach out to me, because I'd love to connect with you about a possible visit and where we could do that, or any contacts anyone might have to help me get those arranged.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly? Questions or comments for Kelly? Going once?
Looking forward to meeting you. That's all.
Okay.
In person.
Okay, we don't have anybody else from the broadband office on, do we? Okay, moving on. So Nicole, I saw that you're here. Glad to have you today.
Hey, good morning. I'm Nicole Umayam. I'm the Federal Program Officer for Arizona with NTIA. I work closely with the broadband office and stakeholders all over, and with our federal partners. I did have a few updates I wanted to provide. I think we'll get into some of the conversations around the meeting and cadence later, so I'll save some of those thoughts, because I'm sometimes not sure at the level of content that you're expecting for some of these updates, Steve, and how to pair that to the participants on the call, because there's certainly a lot that we could talk to that makes more sense for the state directly or for applicants, but I think we can get into that later. But I did want to just highlight a couple of updates. This seems to be a big permitting month for NTIA. There's been a lot of effort behind the scenes to coordinate at the federal level to prepare states for the massive influx of permitting and environmental assessments that are going to accompany the BEAD awards. So last month, I know we had already mentioned NTIA's permitting and environmental mapping tools. That's a first step for BEAD applicants as well as states in planning out these processes. There's also been an announcement of 30 additional categorical exclusions for the permitting process, which is really fantastic for a lot of applicants who are sort of agonizing about having to reopen these processes. And I'll note 6 of these actually are categorical exclusions that are pulled from the FirstNet program. So I know we have a lot of FirstNet fans here, so it's great to see some coordination there. The FCC, there's not much I can say about the Digital Equity Capacity Grant right now, as that window is still currently open. End of May is when the states that submitted their plans have to apply for that capacity funding. There's a separate window for the territories and a separate window for tribal entities that will open later in the year. The FCC on May 15th published their own broadband funding map. So there's versions of these that you see on the state broadband maps. There's versions that you see on NTIA's permitting tool even. This is the FCC's version that is related to the Infrastructure Act. So that's what compels the FCC to publish that on a biannual basis. So it's worth exploring for a lot of people who care about what some of those projects are going on in Arizona. I also wanted to highlight the EDA has an interesting grant that's open now. It'll actually be 2 phases of a grant, and this is to fund tech hubs. So these are community centers that facilitate use of broadband and digital skills. So that's $15 million to build out at least 20 tech hubs in the country. So maybe worth exploring there. And lastly, I wanted to just highlight the earlier this month, the House Energy and Commerce Committee had an oversight hearing on federal funding for broadband. the wonderful leader, Angela Stieford, Executive Director of National Digital Inclusion Alliance, was on that panel, and there's some really great information, a lot of great education for our members of Congress around digital equity and the complexities of rolling out those programs. So I wanted
Excuse
to
me, Nicole.
share
Somebody
that.
is, I can't tell who that is that we're getting some feedback. So would you all please mute? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
Well, that's about it for me. So I'm going to drop all of these links to those announcements that I mentioned in the chat.
So Nicole, can you talk a little more about the tech hubs and who can apply and what the time frame is?
It's with the EDA, so I'll send their NOFO there. I don't have a lot of information, but you're welcome to check it out, and maybe we can get a temperature check on some of the interest there.
Actually, I do have a newsletter from EDA with the tech hubs, so I will share that information.
Steve, there is a consortium, one of which we've written a letter of intent and support for, that is already aggregating some folks. So I'm going to introduce you, since you're here in Southern Arizona, and pull this kind of group tangentially into that. And maybe we can get a letter of support from you guys, and it will make Tucson more attractive. At least I'm representing Tucson, Southern Arizona, but they're already applying for that grant.
You want a stranger? You want to tell us who you
Oh,
are?
it's the
I haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know most of the people. It's Lucy Howell with the Force for Health. I'm based here in Tucson, Arizona, but we have a global program to gamify healthier citizenship on platforms. But what I'm saying is that's already in process. You know, the great thing about this meeting is open communication. So we're not like stepping on everybody's toes here. So there is a group, and it's led by Eagles, and it's Arizona Flourishing Communities. And he's kind of brought in some key players here in Southern Arizona. We went for a grant like this about a year ago. We didn't get it. He is the former state director of the Economic Development Office of the state of Washington. He actually laid out the tech network across the state of Washington. So we're in good hands here. So if anybody is here in Tucson and would like to participate perhaps in that consortium or a letter of intent for that to position Tucson strongly, then let me know.
Okay. Thank you. So any other questions for Nicole? If not, I'm going to change the agenda slightly and have Drew and Brenna, if you guys would kind of talk about, we haven't seen you in a while, kind of give us an update on what's happening. And of course, is there any latest things with ACP? Drew, you still there?
I am.
There you
And Brenna, you jump in to share too, because I think you were on the agenda. Main thing is just the discharge petition in the House. I think maybe, I'm not sure if you discussed that before, but essentially the Representative Clark's refunding bill, which we've been talking about for a while, the ACP Extension Act, has enough votes, has enough supporters to pass if it is brought to a vote. The problem is getting it through leadership onto the floor so it can be voted on. So Representative Clark is working with a congressional procedure called the discharge petition, which if that gets to 218 votes, then it would essentially force the Extension Act to the floor for a vote where it would hopefully pass. So right now, this week, today, we're trying to get as many signatures onto Representative Clark's discharge petition as possible. Yeah, as you have discussed before, but that's still going on, and there's still reason to be working on that bill. Otherwise, though, everything else, like the ACP, is still on track to end in a couple days, basically.
Okay. Brenda, do you want to add anything?
I think Drew pretty much covered it. I mean, the only thing else with that I'd say with the discharge petition is that it was supposed to be filed this morning, but since the member's going to be sticking around into the weekend for the foreign aid supplemental, it'll come out in the next couple of days, it seems. So a lot of the coalitions that we work with are targeting specifically the House Republican members, trying to get their support or word that they'll sign on immediately, just to kind of gain momentum for the petition. But that's pretty much all.
Okay. Any questions for Drew or Brenna? Okay, I'm glad to have you guys. Haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to have you. So a couple of quick things, and I know there's all kinds of events. And again, I want to remind you that I try to put in the newsletter. I've actually changed the format a little bit to put the calendar of events towards the top of my newsletter so that you can scan through those. But if you want to know about what's happening, at least the things that I know about, I'm sure there's lots of others, that's the place. And so I know a lot of times people mention things in the meetings, and I try to get all that stuff in the newsletter. So I really encourage you to at least scan through and see if there's any things that are of interest to you. So speaking of events, and again, I know there's a number out there, but Barney, you're online. I believe you got a big event coming up, an AI event, if I'm not mistaken. Or did we miss it?
Yeah, you caught me by surprise. Yeah, we have an AI or a privacy and law privacy event coming up tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Monday, sorry. That will be, and I don't know if I've got much more information at the tip of my fingers on that.
Okay. So Barney, can you just introduce yourself real quickly and your organization?
Yeah, I'm Barney McCabe. I'm the executive director of the Institute for Computation and Data Enabled Insight here at the University of Arizona. We're really focused on sort of bringing together a lot of the different things that are going on in campus and in the community around AI and emerging technologies.
Okay. And Ash works for you, with you, to you.
Ash is part of the team, yes. Ash Black, and many of you know, is involved in the team, and he runs the industry affairs or AI and industry group for the Institute, mostly trying to get students involved in industry and opportunities across the city and the state.
Thanks, Barney. And Carla, I know the Tech Council has hundreds of events, but one in particular is the cybersecurity event coming up in a month or so. You want to say anything about? Are you still there?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's 2 events that are coming up, and I apologize. I'm on a new computer and my camera will not turn on. So I promise I'm not being rude. I just cannot get it to turn on. But yes.
How are you? You just do large, but I know a lot too quiet.
Hi, Erin. Erin, can you do me a favor and put yourself on mute? Thank you. As I was saying, we do have 2 great events coming up. One of them is the cybersecurity summit, but we also have the MedTech conference, which I thought would be of great interest to this group as well. That is here in Southern Arizona. So the MedTech conference has now been in existence for about 6 or 7 years. And for the first time ever, it's actually moving down to Southern Arizona. We are scheduled to be at I'm going to call it's the College of Medicine, but it's the former entry into Banner Hospital. They have a beautiful atrium in there. And so they're hosting us this year. We have a great panel of presenters lined up, focusing on medtech devices, medtech, biotech, and research. And academia. University of Arizona is going to be heavily involved, but we have a lot of great companies coming from Phoenix as well. And one of the conversations that we talked about, when you talk about medtech, you talk about healthcare simultaneously, and we talked about access. So again, May 21st, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the old Banner Hospital, or the now called College of Medicine Atrium Building. I'll send more information. I'll put some more information in the chat as well as our cybersecurity summit coming up also in the month of May in Phoenix. And I'll put that information again on the chat for the sake of giving you all a summary of both of those events.
Okay. Thanks, Carla. Again, it's good to see you again. So again, I know there's lots of other events. And by the way, Carla, if you just want to mention the Tech Council sends a news announcement of events coming up every Monday morning. And if you want to be on that list, you can go to the Tech Council website, I believe. Carla, do you want to comment about that?
Yes, I'm actually putting that on the chat right now because there's actually a lot of great events coming up, virtual tech series that might be of interest to you all. And the beauty about those is that you're able to participate or record them or get the recording later on and listen at your leisure. So
Okay.
I'm putting the link now.
Great, thank you, Carla. Okay, so are there any other big events coming up? I just wanted to mention, so the Governor's Interagency Community Broadband Advisory Council working groups are coming up April 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And again, all that information is in the newsletter with the links and so forth. So are there any other quick announcements before we move on? And we'll get to other updates here in just a little while. Any other quick announcements? Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to get some thoughts from you about the meetings. Is this a good format that we get updates and presentations? Something we should be doing different? What any thoughts, comments that people might have? I guess we must be doing it all right. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I'll go. No, I just wanted to say that this has been a really great tool for me, both because all the people I'm looking for are usually here and I can build a relationship. And also with all the things that get dropped in the chats, I'll often, reach out afterwards or look up things. I just sent one of the items that was put in the chat. I sent it over to my team and I said, let's start taking bets if, ACP is going to get extended or not, that sort of thing. But it definitely is very informative in a format that seems less formal.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I won't be insulted if you got some feedback of some things we should do differently. So I'm certainly glad to hear any comments.
I think major kudos to you, Steve. I think the leadership and the role that you take in facilitating this on a weekly basis, the cadence of this, I think Nicole said earlier, the fact that there's this weekly connection, and I've dropped off this past quarter and I pop on because I know some things are starting to happen, and it's so rich. It really is a rich conversation, and I'm challenging other states to see kind of what their strength of, free collaboration is. You're not charging for this. I mean, this is that hybrid, nimbleness that people need to get stuff done, quite frankly. So kudos to you. I think that you go by
Thank you.
with not much.
So Kirk thinks we should serve bacon and eggs for breakfast. Okay. So any other thoughts, comments about that? Carla, you have your hand raised.
For me, the weekly meetings is a great touch point. To me, it is just not possible to attend weekly, and it seems like we hear, updates from the same individuals every single week. I think a monthly cadence or bi-monthly cadence makes a little more sense because it's not, it's not often that it's, just-in-time information or that we need to meet every week, but it seems like it is a good touch point for a lot of folks to just convene, because we do have that informal element of stakeholders connecting with one another. But for formal updates like we're asked to do and are put on the agenda, showing up every week is a little difficult. So I just want to manage that expectation.
Well, I always tell people that you'll be here when you're here. And I don't mean you, Nicole. I mean everybody. That when people are here, they're here. When they can't be, they can't be. And that's certainly life, but I appreciate the thought. Erin, you have your hand up.
Yes, to Nicole's point, I think that, for me, the weekly presentations and everything are really helpful. And you know, as many people have noted, the connections that we make here are fantastic. But I wonder if, you know, to kind of balance both of those, like, let's say if you continue doing it every week, the first meeting of the month could be all updates. And then the subsequent meetings could be, you know, guest speakers and things like that, so that if you had to prioritize one, you know, and you wanted the updates, let's say, then you know, oh, the first Monday or first Thursday of the month is, you know, the updates meeting. And it might help for, you know, those folks who can't come to every single one to know which ones they could prioritize.
So one thing I do have to do, Aaron, both for me, because it gets trying to get a speaker every week, which is one of the reasons we don't have somebody today. But to have 4 or 5 scheduled and who's speaking when on what dates might be really helpful to address what you were just talking about. So I will be working on trying to do that. Okay, any other thoughts or comments? Okay.
Steve,
I'm
this
sorry,
is
go on,
Mala.
Mala. Yeah, Mala.
Yeah, I like both Erin's ideas as well as Nicole's, you know, in that sometimes the cadence of a weekly meeting and providing weekly updates is difficult because things don't happen at that pace or at that on those days. But at the same time, if you do schedule one of us to do something at a particular time, then we can put our updates together and bring it to the team. But I do like the weekly informal meeting, networking, because that gives me a chance to meet people that I haven't met and to link with them off outside our meetings. And it's really brought about great partnerships for us at the State Library and for the programs that we do. So I know it's hard. You're trying to strike a balance, you know, between formal presentations and having formal updates. But the weeks that you don't have formal presentations, maybe it's a good idea for you to get formal updates from one of us. You know, we may not always have enough updates every week, but if you schedule it, we can try to put things together.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments? I think one thing I will tell you is that doing that newsletter takes me about 2 to 3 days a week just to get everything, take all the stuff out of the chat and everything else. It is hugely time consuming, but there's just so much happening, so much going on that I kind of think that's important. If you have any thoughts about that, like I said, I moved the calendar of events coming up to the top of the list rather than at the bottom. Hopefully the people will catch those.
Well, and I think maybe a cadence of like first week executive updates, right? Second week, maybe a themed roundtable, because I think that there's diversity of thought when some of the part of the meeting can also be like other people coming in and like lending opinion on something. And then maybe the third week is, you know, featured presentation. And then the fourth week could be whatever. But if you kind of like put it out in that type of cadence, it might be easier to plan for and, you know, facilitate those.
Well, I'll take your feedback and kind of play around with what we might want to do a little bit differently.
Hey, Steve, I have a question. Would it help you if maybe this group created a subcommittee that could help you coordinate some of the meeting and some of the arrangement of information? Because I know it's a lot of work for you. And even the few changes that make it easier for the rest of us or make it more accessible or more adaptable for our schedules. I know it means a lot more work for you. Are you interested at all in maybe getting some support from the group to create the type of meeting structure that we're looking to modify?
That's an idea, Carla. I kind of like that idea. I don't think it needs to be an ongoing group necessarily, but to have a couple meetings and get feedback would be definitely helpful for me. So I appreciate that suggestion.
Steve?
Any other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I would say, and I did mention in the chat, like the newsletter is so good and has so much information. but it is, I know it's takes you a long time to do, and it's very time consuming. So what if you did it twice a month? And then in between, if there's events or if there's announcements or things of real importance, you can send it to the group. But for your, for your own sanity, would it be something that you could do, just twice a month and really just hone in on the super important things that need to go in there?
And that certainly is a possibility also, Elena. The one thing that I do try to do, and I've really been struggling with, excuse me, is to do summaries of the meetings. And I've been really cutting down on how much summary stuff and making it available in the chat, and then the chat, um, uh, the attendance list, and let's see, that one a little brain fart here this morning. Um, and the summary of the meeting, so that I don't have to do so much of that because it just takes too much time.
I can say that I use a tool called Source Scribe, and it is an add-on to Zoom, and it gives you the full transcript. But the thing about it is that so all the bullet points, and you're a very structured meeting, so the notes on this would be very good. And then the transcript is actually a link to the part of the video that they're talking to, so that the recap of the meeting, you could send it out. And if somebody wanted to see what Alana said, about common sense, you could go right to that and see it. And so then what I do is I take all of those notes and I pop it into AI and I tell it to summarize it and then pop it out. So there's some interesting, and I'm happy to work with Carla. Carla, maybe you, me, Alana, and whoever else wants to get in and help Steve here on a couple of things. That would be
Awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Because I would like to, because one of the things I would like to do is to look at us taking some more action kind of oriented meetings rather than just updates. But that requires then having some subgroup meetings and all of that stuff, which is a whole nother set of challenges. But there's a couple of things like cybersecurity and several others that have been kind of languishing that I would definitely like to do that.
Well, your virtual boardroom is already set up at the Force for Health. So anytime we want to move over there,
okay,
we can make all of our lives easier, but that's okay.
Sounds good. Okay, any other thoughts or comments?
This is Jennifer. I'm on the edge of this in large part, watching to get notice on the grants because I'm not reading all the stuff and so forth. One thought might be is when those really, really big announcements and you're gonna have that the Arizona grants get released, things like that, would be to update the invite, because then that's going to show up on our calendars and that'll get our attention because we have to take action on that for that update and so forth. So that might be something that just goes on and puts an announcement that says something a little different or something, just as a thought also.
And I do want to do more updates, more calendar updates, because I know that I send it out and then they don't get it in the calendar and I have to remind people and stuff. So, but thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that thought. Anything else before we move on? So what I'd like to do now is to just do our updates real quickly with a couple of our folks, and then get into some informal introductions from some of you that we don't really know very well. So with that, Mala, do you have any updates?
Steve, I just wanted to draw your attention and our team's attention to the OIG report. It came out a couple of months ago, but we kind of discussed it with our sub team at Shelby. Let me put the link in the chat.
You want to tell people what OIG is?
OIG is the Office of Inspector General. It's it's in the Department of Commerce. And I got the link there. And they actually identified some broadband deployment challenges and wrote a letter to NTIA based on that. And, it's a very interesting report. And I highly recommend that this group at least read it, because it identifies barriers to infrastructure deployment. It's based on feedback from stakeholders, and it's kind of like a management alert, about the challenges to broadband deployment that we might face. Not all states face it equally, but that we might face for the BEAD deployment. And just some of the challenges that they are talking about is the technology to be used in high-cost, underserved communities, and because the NOFO does state that there's a threshold to determine where to draw the line for locations that are just too costly for fiber deployment. And so they're drawing attention to that extremely high cost per location threshold. And of course, we can't standardize that, but it's going to depend on how rural the area is and what kind of technologies we are willing to make available for those areas. But this is just like a management alert, but good to know. Then the second thing that second thing that I want to highlight from the report that I read was the labor market and the supply chain concerns. The labor market concerns are, we addressed it, I think, some time ago, and talked about, Nicole had that beautiful example of how many technicians we might need in different categories and those kind of things. And they highlight that and ask that the states be prepared for it. And they talk about how you can't get a person trained, overnight and have them be available to do all of the jobs that need doing. They talk about things like even the availability of trucks and truck drivers to deploy the fiber to places that need it. And then they talk about the supply chain concerns, the cost and availability of fiber, especially about the waiver for the Build America, Buy America waiver. And they ask that we be prepared for those kind of things. How we can prepare, I don't know, but this is an alert and maybe worth talking about. They also talk about the lengthy permitting process that could lead to delays. And they want the states to identify those, the delay factors, and see if those can be standardized or, addressed before the BEAD deployment. And I think, those are the kind of top-notch things that I culled from that report, but it's worth looking at it and maybe worth discussing as well at a future meeting.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about workforce, so one of the people I see Peter is online today. Peter, do you want to share anything? Because if anybody knows what's happening with the workforce and workforce training in the state right now, is Peter.
Thanks.
How's that for putting you on the spot, Peter?
Oh, great. Thank you. I was just at the big education technology workforce event all week. It's called ASU GSV, and so definitely got a lot of insight on. There's a small community of people that are in the broadband space. So this is definitely a national topic, and I think Mala was bringing up a lot of the big concerns that around like our systems that are going to get overwhelmed because of normally when there is these types of supply and demand events that come up from a workforce angle, most of the contractors and ISPs will resort to recruiting agencies, and they'll usually go into out-of-state markets to leverage labor. But the big challenge with BEAD is that all of this is going to hit every state at once. And so that model that these recruiters have and these contractors and ISPs have of finding people is going to be really strained, because they're not going to be able to use the same model they have for bringing talent in, which is, finding people, like sending people from Nebraska and Indiana out to Arizona to do the construction work or to do the install work. But this is a great opportunity for folks that live locally and in these local communities because
put down yesterday.
um
Yeah, you and Ryan. Yeah, Ryan just went down the hallway here, so.
Okay.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Vaughn, you're
I
not
just muted him.
heads up. Okay. From an opportunity lens of opportunity, it's a great opportunity for folks to have access to these high quality jobs. And fiber technicians, they start anywhere from 25 bucks an hour. And if you're an independent contractor, I know folks that are making 70, 75 bucks an hour. So but that issue really is around that scalability factor. And so I think for me, the two primary things that we try to look at is around that accessibility. A lot of people, are working two jobs. They don't have the transportation to go to colleges. They have childcare. And so how are we facilitating ways to make training more accessible to those populations? And then I think it's just the delivery mechanism. A lot of people are, I think the in-person everyday classroom style is definitely becoming outdated, or at least not outdated, but it's a challenge for a lot of people to go through that type of learning. They need that more hands-on. And then I'll just comment one last thing around a big topic that always comes up is around awareness. And so I can talk a little bit about what we're doing in the awareness vein. A lot of people have no idea about what these jobs are. They don't know what they look like. They don't know what a career path looks like. They don't know what the pay looks like. And so there's not interest from a lot of people. And so what we've done with, and this is where I think we're looking for support in the near term for some of our efforts. We have a really close partnership with Chicanos por la Causa and with their director of workforce, Dee Pinkston. And about 2 years ago, Chicanos por la Causa, also known as CPLC, received a large grant. They have about 300 VR headsets, and those VR headsets are being distributed across all the schools in Arizona. And so they contracted us to build a VR experience that just shows what it's like to work in these next generation jobs. So right now we have a simulator. It's like a simulation or like a video game of working inside a semiconductor fab, because people have no idea what semiconductor manufacturing is. And so, when we ask them, what comes to your mind when I say semiconductor manufacturing, they still say, oh, I see like a big dirty warehouse and I'm like on an assembly line assembling circuit boards. And that's like so far from what the reality is, when we show them, when they go inside of the headset and they're able to see these jobs, they're like, wow, this is amazing. I could totally see myself working here. It looks like Star Wars. How do I get those jobs? So one of the things that we'd like to do is inside of this program that we already have is, can we do a career navigation for these different broadband jobs? And we could just easily add on to the experiences that we've already built and distribute that immediately to all the headsets that CPLC has. So CPLC was the funder for this initial one. So we usually partner with them on grants and other things. So if anybody has any idea on the funding mechanism on that, we have that VR side. And then we are starting in the next 3 to 6 months, we're starting a big marketing campaign for the efforts we do around our upskill program. And so that upskill program is around free training. It's really around a big marketing push to get people aware of these jobs, and they go through an initial training, and then we connect them basically with an employer where they'll continue to do this training for these broadband jobs. So I can give like maybe a formal presentation of like the whole work we're doing, Steve, but I guess for an impromptu response, kind of like talking everything on my mind right now around workforce. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks, Peter. And I know kind of put you on the spot there, but hey, I know you love to talk about the work you're doing anyway. But you want to just tell people what your company is, please?
yeah, our company is Baltu Technologies, BALTU. And the mission of our company is really creating alternative pathways to high skilled jobs. So how are we increasing access and opportunity to these spaces?
So Peter is really very actively engaged with community colleges and nonprofit organizations and all around the state. Like I said, he's probably knows as much as anybody about what's happening in the workforce in the state. So
Hey,
thank you,
Steve,
Peter.
I just want to follow
ahead,
up with
Bob.
on Peter, if I can.
Sure.
Yeah, Peter, great information you just gave us. And as you're describing that, I just came back yesterday from Pima Community College downtown campus, and you really have described exactly where that training program is going in that whole new facility they built down there. You probably have been there, but it is just fabulous. And I also just want to make a backup comment that as far as our Job Corps programs are concerned, I'm not trying to market or sell it to anybody, but you can certainly take it in. But we have an electrical wiring program that goes in the direction of cabling and solar and all the stuff that Peter, I think you're describing. So we're monitoring very closely what's going on with what you're describing, because the training that we're engaging in is probably going to shift a little bit to match up with what the direction and the needs in that workforce area you're describing. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Vaughn.
So Peter, I don't know if you've ever connected with Vaughn and his program, but you may want to do that.
I definitely will. Thank you. I'm learning more about different people and different programs all the time. So thank you.
And Nicole, you were saying something about wanting to know more about the workforce programs. You want to put that in the chat?
Just that the Governor's Office Interagency and Community Broadband Advisory Council has, I think, 4 working groups now. One of them is dedicated to workforce. So this is where stakeholders can meet with some state agency partners and representatives from the Governor's Office and Broadband Office around workforce specifically for broadband. So that registration link is in the chat, and Steve sends it out in his emails for all of those working groups as well.
Yeah. And they have been having, there's several community colleges who are also working on some of this training. I'm sure Peter could probably talk to those, but I want to move on.
Steve, I just have one suggestion before
ahead,
you
Mama.
move on. And that is, if we can schedule one of those meetings, one of the Monday morning meetings for workforce development, that might be really good. You know, we can bring everybody together who's got some programming on this, and have us all take notes and be sure to take this forward.
Yeah,
publicize
that's a
it.
good suggestion, Mala.
Steve, I've got a short announcement around that line that Peter's information and Mala. Here at Job Corps, we're going to be hosting and presenting a workforce summit on June 26th, and there are going to be some really high-end players in that whole topic area. So that'll also be coming out. I'll get it to you, Steve, if you want to circulate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be quite an event. Sun Corridor here locally will be involved. The chambers will be involved. The workforce developments from the 7 counties we serve will be involved. And so it's going to be quite an event. And it's not just a selfish event on our part. It's a disclosure and an awareness of information for any and all that are attending.
Cool. Thanks, Vaughn. Yeah, you can definitely get that to me. When's the date?
June 26th. It'll be a morning start. It'll go all the way to the lunch hour. We're going to serve lunch. We don't know if we'll have 30 or 300 people there, but we'll be ready for it. And our campus will be open for viewing our programs if people aren't here to take time to do that. But but the big thrust is what does this workforce picture look like?
Cool. Well, definitely we'll get it out and maybe we can schedule some additional time on for you to talk more about that. So moving on, Mike Holcomb, you want to give us a quick update, please?
Yeah, it'll be quick. I really don't have updates today. If anyone has colleagues that are interested in a course on developing a telemedicine program, we're offering that. It's a 3-hour course on Tuesday, virtually for free. Just telemedicine Arizona EDU. You can get the information there, but no other updates today. Thanks so much.
Just Mike, and you want to just introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure. I'm Michael Holcomb. I'm the interim director for the Arizona Telemedicine Program at the College of Medicine, Tucson, University of Arizona.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements that people want to make?
I just want to let Mike know that Yavapai County has started a telemedicine program, and they're planning events. The first event is likely to be on May 3rd, and the next
great.
one on May 10th. And I will be contacting you about those soon. I know that it's a short time run between now and then, but they're not planning anything, a major event. It's just to kind of let people know that they have the equipment and they are ready to go. So a small event, but something that maybe you would like to participate in. And I'll contact Lucy as well. And Lucy probably might want to participate. I'll get in touch with you, Lucy.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome,
More
thank
telehealth
you.
access points. Really great. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm just going to make a very quick announcement. We launched a statewide app for the Sickle Cell Foundation of Arizona. It was a HRSA-funded grant, and so that includes free training. So as we roll out, access and education awareness on how digital connectivity impacts health, we're offering free community health worker training, or if anybody knows of anybody who is frontline with sickle cell patients, like school nurses, we've connected with the School Nurse Organization of Arizona. So sickle cell, new free resource for statewide app and digital health application.
Great. Thanks, Lucy. Any other announcements? So we have just a couple more minutes, and of course we can always end early, but as I mentioned, we do have some people we have never really gotten acquainted with. Austin, and if you want to introduce yourself real quickly, please.
Yeah, this is Austin Adams. I'm Steve. I work with Greenlee County. I'm the deputy county administrator. I've tried to clue into these meetings. I think there's a lot of really good information, and I appreciate everybody and what they put out in these meetings.
Okay. You want to say anything about what you guys are doing up there?
We're kind of a tiny county, right? We're the littlest county in Arizona. We're working through some of these nuances for broadband. A lot of working with our current providers that we have here locally. Again, just really trying to get funding to help support the residents. We don't have any other big initiatives on it right now. I wish we had a lot more of the cool stuff you guys are talking about, VR headsets and that kind of stuff. And maybe one day we'll get there, but we're just trying to get people access.
Okay. Thank you. See when we've lost them. So Jennifer, you introduced yourself briefly, but can you tell people who you are and what you do?
Did you mean me?
Yes,
So,
I do.
I was gonna say, normally there's more than one Jennifer, but yeah. So I'm Jennifer Burns. I'm at the Arizona Alliance for Community Health Centers. And so we have over 200 sites across. We have actually just went up to 25 members, but they have over 200 sites and serve over 817,000 patients in Arizona. So the largest network of primary care providers across the state. And that includes in rural areas and so forth. So that's part of what kind of looking for these grants in some of these areas where they can be that anchor institution. And I'm on it. I'm the Senior Director of Legislative Affairs. So I'm tracking this from when the Infrastructure Act passed, and so forth. I'm aware of it, and we've just gotten a grants person back in the office, so we may be able to flip it over to them in the near future, but I'm monitoring it so I can share the info with our health centers once that information comes out for them to apply and so forth as well. So, yep.
Great, thanks, Jennifer.
And I'll add really quick,
Go
the
ahead.
digital inclusion, because we have, I think we're at 1 in 5 Medicaid patients are ours. And that's often a population that either because of the rural or just because they are often low income, the digital inclusion and some of that equity aspects play into our population is often the population you all are trying to connect with and so forth on those aspects. So, yep, thank you.
So Jennifer, how are your centers doing in terms of understanding what's happening and how they can get people connected?
Some of them I do believe are engaged in working with their local county folks and so forth, which I think is one place to do it. I don't know that they've all. I don't think we've broken through on all of them to recognizing the opportunity and what's here. I'm thinking when that's part of the reason I was asking about when the grants actually get released, that might make it more real, because then it's not, not planning and other stuff in IT that they're not planning for the community and that kind of thing, but that would be real of actual have something tangible to apply for and so forth. So that's kind of, I'm hoping that will get more, and I want to be able to brief them when that does happen. So
Great,
yep.
thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. And
Yep.
one last one, and I know people are dropping off. Kim, you've been here pretty regularly. You want to tell people who you are? We're not hearing you, Kenneth. There you are.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kenneth Kim. I am with the Arizona Department of Education, specifically the Adult Education Services. I am a specialist here. And so we work with the adult education population, and so we have several programs across the entire state. Some of them are rather rural, and digital equity is definitely a significant problem for those communities and serving those adult education populations.
Okay.
What,
I'm sorry.
what type of services do you offer, Kenneth?
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically the Department of Education, we basically monitor a grant that is for each of the programs for each of the workforce areas. And then the services provided are, there's about 3 primary services. And so the first biggest one is for individuals that lack a secondary diploma. And so they would need to pass there's a couple different pathways. The most common is the GED testing pathway, where they just take the GED assessments, they pass them, they take the Arizona Civics test, they submit their application, and then they get a high school equivalency diploma, which is, it's effectively a high school diploma, except it comes from the state of Arizona instead of a specific school. The second big population we have is English language learners. If you are an adult in Arizona and need to learn English, any one of our programs is a fantastic location to start. And we have English classes across every workforce area. And that is irrespective, that is not related to educational level. And so that is, we have people that are coming into our programs that have in some cases doctorates, and they just need to learn English or improve their English speaking capabilities. And so that is another service we provide. And the last still important but slightly minor is occasionally we get people that they graduated high school, they kind of coasted through, and now they're like 27 and they want to go back to school, or they need to elevate themselves and learn additional skill sets, but they lack some basic skills. And so maybe it's been a long time since they've had to do any sort of critical analysis with reading text or technical text, or maybe they don't remember how to do fractions and they want to become an electrician. These are examples where somebody is lacking a basic academic skill set. And so then they can also come to our programs, even though they have a high school diploma, they can still come to our programs and get trained in those basic academic skill sets. And of course, these are free to the general population and public.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Okay, let's do one more real quickly since we still have a couple of people on. Tamawa, I think you're actually new to us. Can I
Good morning.
pronounce your name?
Yes,
Did I
Can you hear
pronounce
me
your name
now?
correctly?
It's Tamala,
Okay. So you want to
but that's
introduce yourself, please?
fine. Sure, sure. I'm Pamela, CEO of Dress for Success Phoenix. We are a workforce development organization, and we serve marginal communities either by economic situation or also location. We actually serve in the state from Tucson to Flag. We have clients even in Bullhead City and some of the outliers, and we are located in Phoenix. We have most of our satellite and our mobile locations are in Maricopa County, but we are expanding. We just launched Bank on Arizona, which will encompass the state, which is one of the reasons why we are definitely focused on digital equity and digital inclusion for these financial resources and financial wellness and programs for the people that we serve and that, you know, that will need them going forward. And to Peter's point earlier, it is about awareness, and especially in this area as we expand in the state from an IT perspective, is having programs to show women and also to expose women and teens to some of these jobs that do provide a livable wage. And we also have an education program called Educate Her, where we have MOUs with ASU, with Maricopa Community Colleges, and soon hopefully to be in Pima as well, where we sponsor and provide scholarships, childcare, stipends for single moms and for women who want to upskill, reskill, or continue their education throughout the state. So I'm really excited about being a part of this coalition or task force, and all that I can learn and hopefully to contribute to all of you as well. So thank you for having me today.
Great. Maybe we'll put you on and you could be one of our programs and talk more about what you're doing, how people can
Absolutely. Happy to
collaborate with
do
you.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy to do that. Thank you so much.
Any other announcements for today? Anything I've missed? I'm going to stop recording, and although I guess we've been kibitzing, but I'm going to stop recording, and if anybody wants to stay on and chat some more, you're welcome to do so. And if not, we'll see you hopefully next week.